You cool being right here? Yeah, just a second. Yo, yo, yo. You got anybody out there in the chat stream? Let me know your name and where you are from as you're coming in there. What we got in there in the chat? We are live from Nashville, Tennessee. We're still kind of setting up here, so if you kind of see us walking around and everything, the webinar will start in just a few minutes. My name is Keith Cook. We got anybody out there right now? Yeah, come on in. Sit. Melody, what's up from Florida? Cohen, what is up, guys? Donna, where are you from, Donna? Oscar from Pennsylvania. I love it. Hi, John. How are you doing, man? Where are you from? Brian from Canada. Jim from Kenya. Wow, man. My dad was just in Nigeria. David, we got Mark. Donna from Moorhead. I have no idea where that is. Kentucky. Oh, there we go.
Moorhead.
Chad.
Moorhead.
Cindy. Hey, Cindy. Thank you for promoting this on Facebook, Cindy. Jacqueline, Ryan, John from Paxton, Illinois. We are playing Michael's worship record right now, so you might can hear it. Can y'all hear me okay? Give me a big yes in the chat stream if you can hear me. I'm seeing Russell from Niagara Falls. What's up, Russell? Marva, Judah. Hey, if you just joined us, my name is Keith Cook. I'm sitting here with Michael English, and I will jump out of the middle of the screen once this thing gets going. But we're going to be talking about how to avoid burnout when you are leading worship week after week and you're on stage week after week. So we're going to get started in just a few minutes. My name is Keith Cook. This is Michael English. Nathan, Dan, where y'all from, guys? Joshua from Michigan. David from Jacksonville, Florida. Man, I wish I was out there right now. I struggle with this all the time. Contact first name. Okay, you did not put your name in the contact. There we go. Yeah, that'd be good. Dave, Nathan from North Carolina. Nathan, where are you from in North Carolina? Wallace, North Carolina. Are you close to that, Nathan? Dave, Carrie. Nice. We're listening to Michael's new worship record that just came out, so you can kind of hear that in the background. If you just joined us, my name is Keith Cook. We are talking about avoiding burnout, and I'm sitting down with Michael English. This is going to be one of the best webinars that we have ever done. We're going to get started in just a minute. Hang in there for just a bit. Las Vegas, Andrea, Rob from Levi, Virginia. Guys, if y'all have questions or anything that you want Michael to kind of tackle at the end, go ahead and put that in the chat stream, and we're going to compile those and kind of run through them a little bit. So y'all hearing me okay? Give me a big yes if you hear me okay. I'm seeing Nathan. I'm seeing Lonica from Georgia. Elizabeth from Nashville. Hey, where in Nashville are you, Elizabeth? Got Allie from the Netherlands. Goodness gracious. It is 7 o'clock in the Netherlands, I think. Yes. Seeing a lot of yeses over in the chat stream. I love it, guys. Hey, super, super good energy. We're listening to Michael's new worship album. If you just joined us, my name is Keith Cook. We're going to get started in like 1 or 2 minutes right now. Let me know your name and where you are from in the chat stream. I'm going to talk to Michael for 1 second, and then we'll come right back. So that's kind of... Oh, let's tee that up. This one. Guys, if you just joined us, we're going to get started in just a second. All right, guys. My name is Keith Cook. We're going to get started in, let's see, 1 minute at 1:05. And I've got Joel. I've got Marva, Kenny, Laurie, Oscar, Raphael from Puerto Rico. Nice, man. Nice. Let's see, Oscar. Yeah, we just came back with the audio. I had to mute it for a second so that we could kind of walk through things here. All right, where are y'all from? If you just joined us, my name is Keith Cook. I'm sitting down with Michael English. We're talking about how to avoid burnout when you are on stage week after week. There are very, very few people who know what that's like and having to jump up on stage just week after week. And Michael has been doing this a while. Not to say that he's old, but he's been doing it a while, and I thought he would be a great person to talk to about this. So I'm going to introduce Michael right now. But first, give me a big yes. We are ready over in the chat stream if you guys are hearing me, and we are ready to go, okay? Laurie, I see you from Ohio. Dan from Orlando. Danielle from the Marylands. Gracie, love the background music. Nice. That is Michael's new album. Penny, Ryan. You see the chats right here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, yes.
Yes, so y'all are ready to go. Awesome. So Michael, if you guys can see him, okay, I'll shift this over here a bit. So we're sitting in a room right now that has got more Dove Awards than I even know what to do with. I'm getting a couple. Hold on one second. Look at this, guys. How many times? A Grammy right here, and there's about 20 Dove Awards sitting over there in the corner. He's got them on the floor. I think the Grammy was like just sitting on the floor. I'm making a bigger deal of this than he even
Well,
is.
we got a cat. We're making this. I got a new place. It's not like just a doorstop.
Look at this.
Or something.
Look. Most, like 1% of the world even gets to hold one of these, let alone actually like win one. So what projects did you just kind of wrap up? What are you getting into? What have you been into?
Actually, we're looking for songs for a new record.
Oh, nice.
Right
What's the theme of the new record?
We don't know right now. It's I've done so many records and so many themes. I'm just kind of going. I think we're just going to do what feels good.
Okay.
What I'm not a writer. I mean, I've written some things, but I'm not a major writer. So I depend on other people to write great songs. Mm-hmm. So whatever comes in, I like doing the stuff on kids.
What do y'all want Michael to do? Put it over in the chat stream. I would love to know what y'all think about that. And so y'all know, I married his daughter, so I might kind of joke around a little bit with him. And he
me the same.
Yeah. So if you see that, it's okay. But so you have been.
I know we don't look like it would be that way. He looks a little bit older than I do.
You used to have a beard. You shaved the beard.
I know.
Killing me, man.
The only reason why is I don't want a gray beard and I have to color it.
I'm getting there. I've got patches right here. Getting patches.
I can get that for you.
So you have sung with Happy Goodmans. You've sung with Gaither Vocal Band.
Singing Americans.
Singing Americans.
My family group was the Singing Samaritans.
When did that start? When did you first start doing this?
When I was 7 or 8 years old. 7 or 8 years old.
Okay, so
we named the group. My dad named the group Samaritans for some reason because Jesus didn't even like the Samaritans.
Oh, there's those poor singing Samaritans. So guys, we're talking about in this webinar how to avoid burnout. And I knew Michael's story and when he started kind of jumping up on stage. And since he's been doing this since he's 8 years old, I kind of felt like it would be a perfect thing for him to talk about how he copes with some of the challenges of jumping up and doing this every week. His worship album, he's been kind of now jumping up doing worship songs. He's got a powerful testimony. Like, he's very in demand. He's doing this a couple times a week, and somehow he still wants to do it, which is amazing. So I wanted to kind of pick his brain with that. Any questions that you have got towards the end, we're going to pick a couple, and I'm going to ask him about different stuff. If you would, let's try to stay on the topic of burnout and not what hair color you use or whatever.
Well, you know what, honestly, that you mentioned that, why I still do it, I'm one of the lucky ones, actually. It's like, I was thinking about the World Series last night. Mm-hmm. These guys get to play ball for a living and make a lot of money.
Yeah, that was a good game, by the way.
Yeah, it was amazing. So I get to do what I enjoy for a living. So it's really hard to talk about burnout too much from a personal standpoint of mine, business wise, because I love it. So but there are times, you just get tired, and you just want to put your clothes in a drawer and leave them there for a while. I literally come home now. I pack up my bag with a lot of stuff just for one night. And I'll come home and take my dirty clothes out and leave my bag packed. It's just easier than to take it out, put it in the thing, and take it out again and put it in the thing.
Not very many people know what that's like, living on a bus, living out of a hotel most of the time. You're probably on the road more traveling than you are actually at home, which even adds kind of a different element. But I know with burnout, personally, whenever I was leading worship, I kind of identified a few things that kept coming up and kind of kept pushing me into that burnout moment. And I'm just going to kind of ask you kind of some specific questions. And because I know that when I was first leading worship, I did not handle criticism very well. And the second someone kind of started going into me, trying to criticize me, and they were very well-meaning people, but whenever you're up on stage, leading folks in worship, singing to thousands of folks, they feel that they have the right to now come up to you and maybe say, oh, honey, you should be doing this. You should be maybe doing that. Or maybe the criticism's coming, from a different angle. But how do you, doing this every single day, deal with the criticism that just must come up every now and then?
Well, here's the story for you. This wasn't criticism about my voice. I'm walking in Kroger, and this lady
in season
says,
and out of season.
Are you Michael English? I said, yes, I am. She's talked to me for a minute. She goes, you just don't look like Michael English. You need to lose that weight.
There you go.
And I'm like, really? I handled her pretty well.
Let's walk on over to the frozen food section.
I got to go see somebody about a horse. But I honestly, when it's random like that, it hurts your feelings. But it's more of a story for me now to be able to tell and let people laugh about it.
That's kind of interesting.
But my voice, criticism for my voice, now that's a different story.
Has anybody ever criticized your voice?
Not many.
Yeah.
Gaither, when producing, he's not necessarily criticizing. He's more like, I'm doing too much.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Back it off a little bit. And when I first got major criticism, I was with a group, the Singing Americans, and they the boss man there, we didn't get along too well. He once held my check because my mustache was a little too long.
I have been in a very similar situation, but that we'll talk about.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, so I am who I am. I don't stick to the melody. I get bored easily. I wish I could do that. So I just play with the song, and that's what I'm known for. But at first, I got really raked over the coals for it, and I didn't like that. But I stuck to my guns.
I'm going to take somebody's question here that said, "Do you still deal with anxiety on stage?" Did you deal with anxiety? I didn't know that. Really?
Yeah. Well, I dealt with anxiety in general.
Now, this is kind of not the burnout topic here, but I'm just kind of curious myself.
I went through panic disorder, panic attacks, all that stuff. And I still deal with anxiety all the time.
Getting on stage?
A little. But once I'm out there,
what starts running through your mind?
Once I'm out there, I'm good to go. But if the crowd is not into it, the anxiety comes back and my voice starts to shut down. I have to be at ease to be able to hold my notes, my straight tones, and do my licks.
Wow. That kind of leads me into the second thing that, for me, again, just leading worship here in Nashville, I would kind of sense my heart kind of getting off just a little bit whenever I thought about the expectations that were put on me, maybe as a leader, quote unquote leader, and the expectations of maybe performing on stage. Now, I am not against, as a worship leader, you performing, because you need to communicate the song. And so we've talked about this in other webinars. You need to script out kind of your transitions. You need to do a lot of that stuff, but still the performance anxiety that he's kind of talking about, the second that kind of stuff would start happening with me, I feel my heart kind of going off just a little bit. But like, how do you deal with expectations? People coming to a concert and they are expecting a certain thing. And let's say the Lord kind of leads you to kind of go more into a testimony time or something like that. Have you ever, I guess, let people down in that regard?
Well, yeah. I've been criticized many times by not doing enough songs, by talking too much. But I have a testimony that I've been trying to whittle down into a short time, but there for a while I had gotten up to like 20, 30 minutes. But I still look at that as like the most important part of my program, because that's, people get stuff out of songs. I realize that my anxiety can be calmed by a wonderful melody or song. But hearing a testimony, about a strong testimony, which I think I have because of the things that I have gone through and put myself through, what God has pulled me out of. People need to hear that. And I've heard how many times, night after night, a family, 3 or 4 people will come up and say, this happened because of this.
Wow. And
this didn't happen for me, but when a guy came this weekend and said that he was going to kill himself, but Tory Taft talked him out of it. And his life has changed. It comes by words of wisdom. And I believe I have wisdom as far as, life experiences. And so, so there you go. It's the air conditioning.
Yeah, can we kill the air?
It's downstairs.
Have any of y'all ever dealt with anxiety or the expectation thing? Put a 1 over in the chat if y'all are still with me and y'all are hearing it over there. Y'all digging this?
Somebody said that they love it. I saw something.
One person did, I think.
Criticism is a matter of perspective.
I can't see how many people we have on here. Hey, let me know how many folks we got on here. I have no idea. I can't see it. 1s. I'm seeing a ton of 1s here. Laurie, thank you. Penny.
Somebody had a question. Criticism was a matter of perspective. Can you put that back up there?
And we're doing the Q&A at the end too.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Don't be jumping ahead of me.
Sorry.
Come on.
Q&A at the end.
I'm the host.
How long is the Q&A?
It's like an hour and a half.
You better go get lunch.
Hey guys, if you're just now joining us, my name is Keith Cook with Rocket Company, and we are talking about, we're sitting here with Michael English, who has won just every award that there is in the book. And we're talking about how to avoid burnout when you've got expectations of being a leader on stage, and you got to do this every week, and you've got to make sure that it's on point. That can lead to burnout. And so we've talked about expectations. We've talked about handling criticism. I'm embarrassed to kind of admit this next one, but I, at times, can have somewhat of a Messiah complex, to where I need to fix everything that's around me. And so whenever I get on stage, maybe it's well, the pastor didn't say this right, so now I feel the need to kind of do this. Have you ever been in a situation where you feel like maybe you need to save the church whenever you're kind of getting on stage, or you kind of know of some of the history that's going on in the church and you kind of feel like you need to speak to it?
I don't necessarily know much about what's going on as far as
you go in.
Yeah. I find that out basically, afterwards.
Well, people hit you up on Twitter and Facebook a lot. Yeah. I see that. And some of the things that they say are, do you ever feel the need to try to fix their problems or kind of talk to them through that?
Maybe on an individual type of thing, because I hear people will say, there's somebody here tonight, Michael, that's just lost this person, or there's a person here that's got a kid that's just went to jail, and or whatever. And that's when I starts running through my mind, okay, what can I say tonight to angle my talking or songs towards some of those things? But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
Unfortunately, like whenever I was leading worship, I felt the responsibility and the pressure the worship culture was not always great. And sometimes it was a little dry at different churches. And I felt the need to like do something myself or say something that's going to kind of get them going or kind of move them past that. And I found for me personally that doing that kind of week after week on Sundays and always preparing and having to over prepare because I felt like maybe other people were not preparing, I was getting burnout very quickly.
Were really yours was this at several churches or one church in particular?
Several churches, yeah. Thankfully, it was not happening at the church that I was just leading worship at during that season. But whenever we were kind of traveling doing that, it was I would find out more about the church because maybe it's even a church camp or something like that.
Yeah.
And so you know too much maybe going into it. And mentally, it would exhaust me. Yeah. It really would.
Well, this church I was at this past weekend was with Russ Taff and the Nealons and contractors and different ones. But anyway, talking to the worship leader, this was sitting on the front row. Or was this by myself? I can't remember which one it was. But anyway, it was a morning thing. And I sat on the front row with this guy. And he was the worship pastor. And he says, I mean, you can find out things real quickly because I had just come there, hadn't done anything, just met him. We go sit down in the front row. And while maybe they're taking up offering or praying, he'll say, I'll lean over and say, how long you been here? And he said, 17 years. And how long? I said, this is, it's a beautiful church. He said, well, we went through a split. We had, he said 3 different splits, and it just got down to 50 people, and it was over 1,000 people.
That's sad.
But now it's built back up, doing 2 Sundays on 2 services on Sunday, and I think they're having about 300 or 400 a service now.
Wow.
So he said it just had a lot to do with we got the right people in here to help heal this whole split thing. Wow. I've never understood the whole split church thing myself.
Dude, it's a big deal.
I know. I know. I
don't even want to ask the question to you guys, but yeah, I know. I've seen it happen before. And goodness, I mean, from a worship perspective, it is just really bad because you've got people that are in the church who you're friends with and they go the other route and you love them to death. And in Christ, you're brothers and sisters, but man, it just hurts your feelings more than anything.
Yeah, because, the church is the people. It's not the building. And that is the split. It's like a divorce. You're splitting up a family. And I can't imagine going through, like, I think if I'm not mistaken, he had normally if there's a split, there's one that goes this way and one that goes this way. I think this one had a third piece there, this and then this one. And it's just a bunch of people arguing over who should be the pastor or the worship pastor or don't like the singing, I guess.
I've seen splits, and we probably even know of a certain situation that was mostly over the music here in Nashville.
Yeah.
And that was a really big deal.
Yeah.
Really big deal.
Really big deal.
And guys too, we're not just going to like talk about like, hey, these are kind of burnout situations, but like in just a minute, we're going to talk more about like solutions to burnout, which, stick around for that. But if you're just now joining us, my name is Keith Cook. We're with Michael English talking about burnout. I'm going to jump right back into it. There was a story. He's looking at the chats.
Sorry, I can't help it.
I know it's so hard not to.
There's so hard.
Hey, y'all give us a big yes over there. If y'all are seeing us kind of lean in here, we're kind of just looking. Oh yeah, it's a little bit delayed too, so you'll see this stuff. And then
yeah,
it kind of comes
you
out.
guys can ask the questions again in a little bit because I keep wanting to answer your questions now, but he's getting on to me.
This is the internet's. I'm just kidding.
Shut up.
Okay, so I think maybe the biggest question for me is comparing yourself to other people. I compared myself to Mars Hill Music, to Sojourn Music out in Louisville. I had people come up to me all the time saying, hey, would you just do it more like Matt Redman does it on this CD? Here's the CD. Like, they gave it to me. Would you do it more like Chris Tomlin?
Who would do that to you?
Oh my goodness. It's usually older people who really, really like maybe Good Father. And they hear it on the album and they think with me and one other person at a church plant. That
leading it or singing it as a solo?
No, leading it. So they're really supposed to be the one singing. And they're like, hey, would you make it sound more like the record? Ma'am, I would love to. We don't have the musicians to do that. So here's what we're doing here. But I would then, and mentally, I'm comparing myself to other people. And especially when we were on the road, comparing myself to other people. Do you struggle with that? Did you in any course of your time, or you're just always the cool cat who is just like, well, I don't know. Do you compare yourself to other people?
Compare myself? Mm-hmm. You know what? Here's what I struggle with. When I'm by myself, I'm okay. But I was with Jason Crabb a couple of weeks ago, and
he seems like a good dude.
He's the best. He's the sweetest guy in the world.
I don't think I've ever met him.
And we got some plans for the future, which is going to be great. But he's got a band. His band rocks. I mean, it's just they're great. I sing with tracks. I used to do that, but I needed to make a living. But I don't know how he does it. But he's very popular. He's done very well, and I'm proud of him. But seeing his thing and hearing some of that rasp in his voice and wishing I could do something like that. I don't necessarily get people coming up comparing me, or they will compare me, but not in a bad way. But I compare myself, and I get kind of down and go, I wish this, because I've always been the one, and this is my problem. I've always been the one who's wanting what other people have.
Oh, sure.
Like I should have ordered that instead of ordering this food.
Yeah.
And
I'm
constantly unhappy with
guitar tones. I hear someone else's guitar stuff, and I'm like,
yeah, it's the same thing.
Oh, that's what I want. And then you go spend $1,000. You're like, but that guy's even better, or that guy's a better songwriter, or it's not.
Or living. This record is that I want that verb right here and on my record, or I want my voice to sound like this. I'll give you an example. Back a long time ago, I heard Olivia Newton-John, or one of her new records. It was a long time ago, but it was. Trust me, it was like how music just gets better and better and better, and up until that point, and it was. I put the headphones on. It was like you could smell her breath almost. It was so there, and I'm like, that's the record I want. I want people to be able to hear it to where it's like I'm right there, So that's just an example, and I'm always thinking I'm never going to get there because I don't. And the reason why I think is it's my upbringing. And it's my negativity.
What do you mean upbringing?
Never going to amount to anything. Things I heard as a kid, and I've constantly, it's constantly back in my head. Now there's people say, well, have you prayed this through? You shouldn't be feeling that way now. But you know what? It's a lifetime, of pain, and it's like it's tattooed on my heart, and so I talked to a friend of mine with Sawyer Brown. He says he's the same way. He's constantly waiting for the ball to drop.
Wow.
And that's a terrible way to live.
Sure.
But it's not like that all the time, but it's just a part of who I am that I wish I could be like somebody else. Wish I had somebody else's strength. Like Kevin, he's like this all the time. He never gets upset. I mean, traffic, we will be stopped for an hour and a half in traffic, and he's like going, well, it could be worse. And I'm like, what? This is worse.
Hey, people like that. I played golf with this guy who was just like that, and he would say this cheesy line of like, you're really just in a war with yourself. It's like,
Oh,
shut
dear
up.
Lord, that's when you want to say shut up. Or hit him with a golf ball.
You still playing golf?
Played not too long ago.
Did you? Cool. Thanks.
Played really good.
For calling me.
Well, it was a quick thing. Kevin and I.
Sure. Yeah. Because I don't live like 10 minutes away. But
Yeah.
Sure. We'll figure that out later. Y'all still with us? You hearing us okay? Melody, I see your question. Regina, Rich, off topic. Yeah, that's hysterical, Rich. Melody, see, what do we got over here? Cool. Y'all still hearing us? Give me a big yes if you're still hearing us over there. If you're just now joining us.
I don't get stalkers anymore. If I do, they're like 78.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate that, buddy. Awesome. I can see you over there. Tons of yeses. Dave, Kim, Penny, I see it. Gracie, awesome. Regina, this is really great. Okay. So give me a good story about Vestal Goodman, because you used to tell me some stuff when I was traveling with you, and I don't think anybody knows half the stuff probably that you have experienced. What's one of the better memories that you've got with her?
With her?
Mm-hmm.
Well, not all good. I can tell you that. She was like a mother. And when I went through that really deep fall with,
Mm-hmm.
your wife,
Mm-hmm.
and when she was a kid, she would get on the phone and just blow me out. You need to get back to that wife for years, and God's not going to bless your music if you don't get back with that wife. That's the way she talked like this. I knew her testimonies. That's how much I was in love with her, because I copied one of them. And we're talking about last night, Mark Lowry was over here or I can't remember. And Vestal had a testimony after she sung "Sweet Hour of Prayer, Sweet Hour of Prayer." I can't get my voice back. And then she'd go, "With permission, I'd like to go back and sing that last verse again. It was written especially for the children of God." And then she went on.
Permission, I like that.
Well, I just bought a record player, and I got all these records, and that one with the "About on My Knees" that became so popular. Yeah, let me see that. I did my testimony, and that would be me.
Love that stash, man. Love that stash.
It couldn't go too long, or I wouldn't get paid. But here's a couple more stashes for you. Look at that.
Wow. The old lip critter.
Here's one I want to finish that story, but here's one that's good. Here's one that people have never knew about. Probably this group was the Couriers Unlimited. I left them because I couldn't say Couriers. No, I'm kidding. But check out my suspens. There's my beard. But anyway,
Rich, I blame you for us getting off topic, man.
Yeah, that was a time of my life. Your mother-in-law went through some really tough times. But Vestal, what was I saying?
Vestal stories, good stories.
Oh, where was I headed? Oh my gosh, this was a good one too. It wasn't like it was back with like the getting on to me. Oh, on that record, I did my testimony, and I said, "If you'll allow me, I'd like to go back and sing that second verse again."
On the record?
Yes,
that's
I did
awesome.
that. And then I'm singing something. I go on about Jeff Easter picks on me every time he sees me, and I said, "Then I bowed on these old rugged knees and cried holy." I was 22. There was nothing rugged. I can do that now.
You're just setting your setting it up for the future.
It's like my dad would always say, "Son, you need to tell your testimony." I'm like, I'm only 10. I don't have a testimony. Give me about 30 years, maybe something will come out.
All right, last thing for me is another point in dealing with burnout is if you've got a bad relationship with your leader, with your pastor maybe, or maybe some of the other folks that are on staff, I've noticed in myself that really, really gets my heart like just off. And I start focusing more on that, and it takes me away from the duty which I have been kind of hired to do, which God has called me to do, which is lead folks in worship. And so kind of my question to you is like, have you ever worked with people, and you don't have to say any names, but have you ever worked with people where there was tension, but the goal of kind of going out there and presenting the gospel in the way that you guys do it was more important, so you put up with it?
I did for quite a while in several groups. That's probably the hardest thing to do.
And did it feel like the burnout thing was that? Were you getting burned out, or was it just like, I'm done? I don't know what kind of stuff.
It's basically I was burnt out on a lot of things. Burnout on not feeling important enough to be here. Burnout on certain people. How things are run, how things are. It's hard to explain without naming it.
Oh, sure.
But I can't. But
and I wasn't trying to like set you up with
I know that, Jay Leno. but that's a really tough time. I mean, I've had, and these are with things that maybe would happen on stage. Things that happened to me as a little boy.
What do you mean?
Like my dad would, if I wasn't smiling.
Oh, okay.
Or if I wasn't doing what I was told to do on stage, my dad would flare his nostrils and pierce his lips, and his eyes would do this.
You just knew.
And I knew that it's over. And so there's no way.
Now you got a testimony, though.
Exactly. But I'm not saying that thing happened later, but certain things like that happens, and it shuts you completely down. And then when that happens, you not only have to change that, turn that smile upside down, you've got a big reason to not smile now. And that eats you up inside, like you have no idea. And so
that reminds me of when I was in Branson doing the Western thing, but you never came out there to see me.
Well,
that kind of like hurt my feelings. You were in Branson playing at another theater. You know, you were there. Like, I think you played a different theater.
No, there's no way.
I was with the Western group, and like one of the older women who kind of managed it, she would have like this weird flashlight in the back.
I thought you were going to say a whip.
No, well, perhaps. She's an awesome woman, but it's kind of like the Vestal thing. She would always get on to me about not smiling. And I'm smiling, but like not to her level. And
that's the thing.
She'd sit in the back. We're opening for Willie Nelson out there. So it's like a lot of people. I'm a little nervous. I'm just thinking about what I need to do. And she would always hit the light in the back. And it was just to me, letting me know.
That's like doing
yes. And I'm like.
And you don't want to smile then.
I know. It's like, I just don't want to.
Well, see, that's the thing. I'm not an exaggerator like a lot of people. And Branson, of all places, in Vegas, you've got to, they put eyebrows up here and they put eyelashes like this, so there will be more, so you can see them better. And so you have to smile. Anytime I would smile, I felt like I was going like this, but it was more like that. I felt like I was overdoing it when I was hardly anything at all.
Which we've talked about to if you've been on any of the past webinars, or if you're in Worship Rocket right now, like videoing yourself. I can't go over that enough. To know what you really look like when you're performing is so important. And so many people do that. The guys that we were with last time were even talking about how they would do that. It's awesome for feedback. Just throwing that in there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another example. I hate looking at myself. I hate listening to myself. In fact, the only reason why I even listen is to make sure it sounds okay and learn the song. But I never even get that far as learning the song. But there was this one time years ago, I watched myself on video with the singing Americans, and I was standing there like a robot, and my hand was cupped on my side like this. I mean, and it was like I was I couldn't move out of that spot, and I looked so ridiculous. I couldn't stand it. So then I got with the Gaithers, and I saw with Larnell Harris and how he's the cat daddy.
He's smooth.
And I saw how he would move, and I started just playing around with my hands and just going, okay, I hope I'm not looking stupid here by doing all this stuff. But I started just coming up with these things that felt right and said, Michael, you can let yourself go. You can move. I come from a world where it's like 4 guys and everything had to be kind of, choreographed. And I wanted to be my own self. I wanted to be my own voice. I wanted to create my own style, and watching Larnell and watching myself helped me come up with my thing.
That's a big module. And 2 things real quick, guys. I want to tell you about Worship Rocket, but also the questions that are coming in are amazing. Keep putting those over in the comments, because we're going to get to them in just a minute. And I kind of feel like you need to know, no matter where you're at on the burnout spectrum, so week after week you're doing your thing, and you're getting the criticism, maybe you're butting heads with your pastor, with your leader. If you are not 100% grounded in the gospel, then all of that little criticism will take you, and it will be 3 years later, and you have stayed in that kind of a world mentally, and it will completely just take you off track. So I want to encourage you to stay in the Word, stay grounded in the Word. You've got to find community, guys, and you've got to find it with other worship leaders. You have to find it with other musicians, performers who get that. And also you need to find community within your church, because these struggles are real, and keeping those kind of things inside, it's just another way for the enemy to kind of move you away from what God has called you to do. If you're butting heads with your pastor, you go to the Word, be grounded in the gospel, and be so confident in the assurance that you have in Christ, that the criticism is like, it's okay. You can smile it off and you can laugh it off. So that's like the weirdest transition ever into telling you about Worship Rocket. But I believe really, really strongly, I'm not going to pitch this for very long. We're going to get into the Q&A in just a second. I feel really strongly about Worship Rocket because it took me from being a complete noob to completely being a professional leading worship. Here's the kind of stuff that you learn whenever you are in Worship Rocket. You learn how to speak as well as you sing. That means all of your transitions, working on the transitions and how you go from song to song with your pastor's jumping up and praying, and then you've got to transition to another song. How to pick the right songs. Week after week, it is really, really tough to pick things not only that create a worship culture, but that like engage people. It's really hard. So we covered that in Module 2. Module 3 is how to see your blind spots. Kind of what Michael was talking about. If you're not going back and reviewing yourself and you've got kind of a framework to operate within, you never really know where you're at. So that's Module 3. Module 4, and again, this is with Worship Rocket right now, which is what we're offering for a very stupidly low price for you to get training, worship training, and a community of people that I was just talking about, like small group coaching and accountability. It's not just the training, it's also that accountability to make sure you become the worship leader that you feel like God really has called you to be. Module 4 is how to elevate your worship experience. I want you to have the kind of worship culture that you want. And so mapping out that path to get there is very, very vital. That's a part of Worship Rocket. Module 5, how to perform without apologizing. That's a big deal for me because you've got to communicate the song. We covered that. How to get people to sing. That's Module 6. How to find talented musicians. Even in Nashville, it's hard. And so in Module 7, we give you best practices. Module 8, how to get on the same page as your senior pastor. That one alone, if I gave you that it would be invaluable. Module 9, how to build a winning worship ministry. Module 10, how to keep your voice in shape. How do you keep your voice in shape?
I don't talk loud.
Oh, really?
I try to, anybody that calls me up on the phone, which I think it's just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a good trait to have. But like everybody says, talk like Michael Jackson, because that's better for you. But who's going to walk around like this? But that's the best thing for it. But if you're not going to talk up there, you just don't, because talking wears my voice out more than anything else. I'll get hoarse and can't sing if I continue talking. If you can hear me, I'm talking low. But that's not good for your voice. It is better to put it up in here to where you're not straining your vocal cords. But still, that even sounds like a doofus. But if you're not around anybody, or if it doesn't matter, or try not to overdo it. It was for the talking and stuff. And I used to never have to warm up, but I used to be young. But these days, I really need a little time to warm up. In the mornings, it really doesn't even matter that much. If I don't get up at 3 in the morning and have about 4 hours to warm up, it's just going to be too hard for me. Wow. But I still have to, I still have to do them.
Yeah. Well, we need to get you to probably teach on that. So that's module 10. Module 11, how to grow your influence as a worship leader. There are things that you can do that can kind of set your career up. If you think about, and if you care about that kind of stuff, that's module 11. Module 12, how to lead when you're empty. That's kind of the theme that we've been going on with the burnout, and making sure that your eyes are always on Christ. And I don't mean that in a cliche way at all. I mean, you need to be applying the gospel to yourself. Preach it to yourself, okay? That's the biggest thing. And with the offer that we've got, there are some unbelievable bonuses that we're throwing in. If you get Worship Rocket while basically the webinar is going on, I think it's like for 10 or 20 minutes afterwards, you've got a chance to do it. But we're throwing in bonuses that make this a completely no-brainer if you're on the fence. The first one is you get a physical copy of Sermon Craft. And I have actually, you go through this and it helps you plan out your worship services. It asks you, what stories are you trying to highlight? What transitions are you going to do? And it's a no-brainer framework to walk you through setting that up. It should save you probably 2 to 3 hours a week. So that is going to be thrown in for free if you get Worship Rocket today. And also Todd Fields' Lead Worship Well recordings is also going to be thrown in for free. He sat down with Chris Tomlin, Matt Redman. I'm spacing on the dude from Third Day's name. What's his name? I don't know.
The dude.
Yeah, the dude, I guess. The dude with the beard. He sat down with a bunch of those guys, and they're all talking about these core issues that you're going to find within Worship Rocket. That is, if you go to Rocket Company website, it costs $200 just to buy it. And if you jump on to Worship Rocket right now, we give it to you for free. So if you are a worship leader and you want to be somewhere else in terms of where your worship culture is at right now, maybe there's a disconnect, maybe that there's problems, and you don't know how to take that next step, I would encourage you to try Worship Rocket. It is a non-committal thing. You can jump in and jump back out if you don't like it. But it has changed my life, and that's why I'm doing this right now. That's why I'm bringing artists like Michael on to talk about these issues, because I care about worship leaders and I care about the church, because I love Jesus a lot, and I want to make sure that you guys are set up for success. So it's $79 a month right now, and you can cancel it anytime. You can do all that. You get the bonuses today, and there's even a couple other cool little bonuses on the page. So if you want to go check that out, please do. $79 a month. The price goes back to its regular price, and you don't get any of the bonuses a couple minutes after the webinar. So check that out. I want to jump into now some awesome. Are you a Worship Rocket member? We need to get you in there teaching some courses.
This is very interesting to me, because I've never led worship. When I'm, if I'm on stage and I'm like, sing this song.
You've never led it in the capacity of life.
No.
In a church.
But so many artists, for him, all these guys, that's what they go into, and
the Longs, we were talking about them before, Jana. And,
Greg
Long, yeah.
And I was asked to do it once, and I turned it down because it frightened me to death. First of all, I don't know how to do it, but I know that that may be something where I can keep my drawers, clothes in my drawers, and I could stay home.
Well, for $79 a month, we can teach you how to do it.
But it's a great thing for somebody like me who knows, you know what, this will keep me in music. This will get me in church, back in church, because I'm never in my church. I don't have time to go home to my church. I'm always on the road. So I mean, honestly, this is a great thing, especially for somebody like me that maybe wants to go into that. Maybe not now, maybe later, but still, it's time. It's always time to do it now instead of later. If you're trying to get a job as a worship pastor, you got to know what you're doing before then.
And I don't really cover this on most webinars because I don't want it to sound weird. But if you're a worship leader and you're even eyeing the next step up, maybe, and you kind of maybe feel the Lord's leading you to maybe another church that's larger, or you'd like to kind of enter that realm, Worship Rocket is a really, really big deal that you should consider. I guess that y'all have dropped the offer into the chat. I did not see it, but hopefully it's there. Click on the offer. I believe it's worshiprocketoffer.com.
Is that Sandy Patty?
I don't think so. I think people kind of like to have fun over there. Sometimes Chris Tomlin jumps in. Sometimes Michael Jackson jumps in. So it's
also
kind of it's something I would do. Yeah, it's something I would do just to kind of be funny.
Funny?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know. Maybe it might be her.
I mean, I know Sandy. I was just going to say, hey, but.
All right, questions. We got a limited amount of time here for questions.
Okay.
I'm going to run through them. If you like it, we can do it. If not, you say pass. Jim says, real burnout takes months to recover from. How do you do that and maintain a ministry? How do you recover from it, even though it's going to take months? But you still have the day-to-day ministry of kind of going out there and doing your songs, and maybe you're in a funk.
It's a different thing for me, though. I'm not a worship leader yet, or worship leaders give me the daily. I don't even know this. I just see worship leaders on Sunday morning, maybe doing 2 services, but there's so much more to that.
Geez.
So give me the rundown on what a normal Monday through Sunday.
A lot of these guys. You've got some people starting out, they're in church plants or maybe they're in smaller churches. But then you've got the middle of the tier folks who they've got a couple hundred people there. And then you've got a couple folks who are in the big, larger churches, I think, that are probably listening today and that are customers. But the guys who are kind of in the middle of the road, they are not only the worship pastor, but they're probably even like the creative arts person. So they're doing the PowerPoints. They're putting the PowerPoints together. They're making sure that that's good. They're making sure the lighting's good, the sound's good. They've got to wrangle up the musicians every single week. Sometimes they're volunteers. For these folks, I bet it's mostly volunteers. In Nashville,
bigger churches, some of those get
sure. In Nashville, we can do that. Most places, though, are existing off of completely volunteers. And I will tell you from experience, it's usually not a great drummer and usually not a great bass player. And so you also need personal development and helping them develop their instruments. You've got a lot of demands on do these songs or kind of create this kind of thing. You'll probably have to go lead once or twice.
Don't you have to wrangle up the songs you're going to do that week?
Oh, you certainly
The worship pastor does that, right? Or does he have, it's a big church, he may have somebody doing it for him.
Yeah.
But in a normal situation, say you have to go through all kinds of songs, but you still have to.
We teach how to do that, by the way.
Right, you have to get songs that people know.
Yep.
And you have to continue doing the same song sometimes every other week or so, right? So
even with that,
so I don't get burnout as much, unless I'm like doing a tour that's like a 3-month tour or something. Because mine is just once a week, twice a week maybe. I got 3 this weekend.
Do you ever?
Mine happened more when I was with the groups.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like you have to fake it?
Oh yeah. This is another situation. Gaither would do 2 shows back to back, which is the same thing as doing 2 services back to back. I always feel like, for some reason, when I do the second show back to back, I feel like I'm acting because we're doing the same show. And I look at that in the church too. This pastor is preaching that same sermon with the same and little laughs and this, and I'm like going, man, how do you do that? You know, it just feels like it's so rehearsed. So
And
that's the toughest for me. If I have a night to sleep, I feel like I'm re-energized to go back out. But I change my stuff up as much as I can. You know?
In your crowds, you probably see young folks, you see middle of the road folks, and you see some older folks. How do you create an environment and a set that's going to speak to all those people?
That's been a tough one for me for all my career, because I started out in Southern gospel music, and then I went to contemporary music, then I went to pop music, and then I came back to do some Southern gospel mixed with. I'm probably, and this is not a bragging way, because it's hard to do, to go to take your Southern gospel crowd along with you to the pop gospel crowd and keep them. And that happened back in the 90s. Well, that's just the way it's been for me. So people seem to accept whatever I do. But
that's awesome.
The churches, I've talked to how many, the reason why they don't need to do 2 services, they have to, because we do a contemporary service and we do a more laid back service.
That's tough.
That has to be tough,
Very tough.
But at least it changes it up. It's not like you're doing the same service twice, unless you're preaching.
I've even seen it with 2 different worship leaders doing those things, which then creates a weird.
Another story. Yeah.
What's the difference between burnout and being done? I might say, I feel like that's both of them are a hard issue, and both of them, the cure for that is going straight to the gospel and affirming who you are in Christ. And I feel like that God will lead you. If you're done, I feel like he will completely let you know. And it might be shutting a door. It might be opening up another one. If you're burnt out, though, I feel like the passion and love is there, but you just are not very happy the way things are currently going. And if you are instinctively looking at everyone else around you as being the problem, that's not right. You should not do that, because most likely you are the problem. I was the problem. And I was looking to everyone else as being the issue. And that was really me coming back to the gospel and being very confident in Christ and saying, okay, I can take this criticism. How can I maybe communicate this better with the senior pastor so that we don't butt heads? How can I fall in line with this? So I feel like that's a big, hard issue. And I feel like you will know if you're done. It should be, I think, kind of obvious. So back to you.
And also, let me ask you this, because I know we don't have much time. There's a lot of people questions, and there's a lot of people giving advice. Does this go on so they can get some answers from, or hear these other people's ideas?
For sure.
If they're right.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times with, if you're looking for community, I know somebody said here, how do you find the proper community? There is an option within Worship Rocket. If you go to that page, that's kind of specifically for the folks who are looking for community. And we've geared that. We understand the needs of worship leaders. And so maybe check that out if you're struggling. But all of these things in the chat, they kind of load them up here on my phone. And so they're taking those. And we have to, unfortunately, pick some of the better ones. Not better ones, but some of the ones that kind of help facilitate what we're doing.
I was getting ready to correct you on that. The better ones, some of you got
the ones that are superior questions. But guys, thank y'all so much for being here. I'm going to give you a couple more here.
Let me throw you. How do you, I can't read. How do you try and get your ideas heard when the staff blows it off? That's a good question.
It is. To me, I think of 2 different things. Why are they blowing it off? Look at it from their perspective.
Not everybody is as talented as they think they are either.
Oh, I am not nearly as talented.
but you know
that's
what
a really
saying.
good point. Really good point.
I mean, people pitch a song, or somebody says, the other day I had this guy sing to me, and it was, God bless his heart, but it was, he wants to be a singer for his living, and it'll never happen.
Yeah.
Ever. I mean, nothing that can be done other than just born again, being born out of the womb,
physically born
in a new body
with a new vocal cord.
But it's like, that's a hard one, because people feel like God has called me to do this, and there's no way God has done that.
Yeah,
that's something.
That's the importance of the feedback and community angle,
right?
And it's just like the folks who go on American Idol and they're just terrible. If you're in a community that's trusted and they're giving good feedback and you're receiving it, I think maybe where you're at. And I would say, though, even with the person who can't sing, I wonder if
And that goes back being able to handle constructive criticism.
Yes.
Yeah, some of it's not constructive criticism.
Oh,
It's just blatantly like you can't sing.
Yeah.
But Christians hopefully don't do that.
I think
like
maybe
Simon
we do it.
Cowell.
I think maybe we do that more. Maybe actually in the church, it is just so. For some reason, people feel
I
the
don't,
need to do
because
that.
if somebody says, "What do you think?" and
Yeah.
I'm not going to go, dude. Don't quit your day job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go.
Well, sure.
I'm going to probably lie. I hate that. The Bible says don't lie, but I'll probably say, man, or I'll say keep it up.
Well, but
keep it up.
You've got so much influence that.
Or don't keep it up.
Yeah, I would argue that I wonder if there isn't something that passion is going to lead to. So maybe it's not singing, maybe it's songwriting, maybe it's assisting with someone who's a singer.
I mean, that's a good thing too. I mean,
help them navigate
that passion
that
at. You have for this.
Yeah, it's
could
from God.
Go to something else. But you might just be missing exactly what it is, because God doesn't audibly say, "I want you to be a singer."
Yeah, and I find that comes often from idols in my life that I see that I'm like, I want to be that person on stage. And so now I've everything is filtered through this. Oh, I want to do that. I feel like God's leading me to do this and write this kind of song, when it's like, is he really, or are you just trying to compete with somebody? That's been my heart. But again, make sure you're turning all this stuff back to yourself, and not anytime you say it's their fault, man, there's just a really good chance it's not. And even if it is, man, give it to God. And pray so much and love those people so much that they come back to you and apologize. I've seen it happen before.
Just remember, the word says God is not the author of confusion.
That is a great thing. Yeah. Guys, thank y'all so much. For everybody that kind of stuck around, we're a little off time here, but thank y'all. Go to worshipRocketOffer.com if you're interested in that. I would love to see you in there. There's a lot of really cool stuff, cool bonuses that we got going on. So thank y'all so much for being here.
Let me show you one last thing.
What do we got here?
This is me and the man.
Ah.
George W. or George H.
That's HW.
That's H.
That's
I'm taller than he is.
That's hysterical.
Okay.
Hey,
bragging.
So you've got so many awards, Dove Award things. You've got a flag over there. We could probably talk for hours on stories. I assume we're still live. Are y'all still even here? Give me a big yes if y'all are still here. It's a little bit, yeah. Crickets. Okay, after watching Michael drink so much tea, I need to go to the bathroom.
They're still here, I guess. Cindy, I know who you are.
Yes, John. Hey, Laura. Y'all still sticking around? Gracie. Andy, yes.
I love doing stuff like this. We could do something like this once a week and get people's questions and talk.
Well, we need to get you in doing some stuff within Worship Rocket, because you've just got a wealth of knowledge. I hate capping it at an hour because we could go in so many different directions. But give me.
I hate also capping it at just one subject.
Sometimes, I got to do that though, man. Yeah, because it's so easy to talk. Yeah, because there's so many ways that we could go with it. We could just probably sit here and talk about stories. Which one funny story, if we're still live? Yeah, we are. Okay. Funny story. And we were on a plane together, and the flight attendant, you're asleep, and the flight attendant comes over and nudges you. You're really not asleep, but you didn't want him to nudge you to tell you that to put your seatbelt on or to check your seatbelt, and you gave him, like, it took a minute. So you're kind of doing like this, and you're like, and you give him the most annoyed look of like, what
I was almost
are you doing? I think you weren't. I think you were just joking, trying to do something. But that's a really,
I always loved to do stuff with you. When you were traveling with me, I loved doing these little practical jokes or things, Remember, you would be on the escalator 2 or 3 steps down. I'd go, Keith!
Yeah, that embarrassed me bad.
He would shake his head.
All right, one more story, and then we're calling it quits here. Let's see. What's one of the funniest things I've ever witnessed around you before? Man, there are so many. Well, tell me.
I know we would have to get to the airport when Southwest, it was like cattle call. You had to be in the front to get the good seats, and we would get there and just sit on those floors. Do you remember that morning?
Do you remember when we saw Bill? Was it Champlin? Who's your biggest hero with music? I am kind of curious about that.
Gosh, I mean, so many. I mean, there's James Ingram, there's Bill Champlin, there's
Yeah, we saw him in the airport. Remember, he was walking by and you like geeked out.
yeah.
And I didn't even know who he was. Like you ran up to him. It was really kind of fun.
I don't do that very often.
No.
I saw John Riggins at a cafe in New York, and I have always heard he's a rough character.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wanting to go up to him, but because he's like my man. He was called the Diesel on the Washington Redskins in the '80s. And I said, if I go over there and because he's not a Christian as far as I know,
Mm-hmm.
he was a rough character, Mohawks back in the day with the Jets. But I was like, if I go up to him and ask for an autograph or shake his hand, and he blows me off and says I'm eating or whatever, it would ruin my.
Yeah,
it would ruin so much of how I felt about him. So I just decided not to do it.
Well, cool guys. Thank y'all so much for sticking around. We're going to jump off right here. And
what kind of physical prep? I love this. I love the answers. We got to do more.
We're going to keep doing more. We're going to keep doing more.
Physical prep. Just let me say before you leave, leading worship. Nope, I don't know. That's his job.
All right, see you guys. Thanks for joining in. Go to Worship Rocket Offer. And my name's Keith Cook. Thank y'all so much. I love you guys. Bye.
Bye.